Hello, my name is Stephen Pena. I am a senior pastor here at Snyder First Assembly in Snyder, Texas, but I'm also the founder and president of Snyder Community Resource Center, also located here in Snyder, Texas. It's a non-religious nonprofit devoted to helping people take a step forward in life. I want to give you just a quick personal narrative to help you gain an understanding as to how I came to this point. How did I get to the point where I want to be a lead pastor of a bilingual, dynamic, growing church here in Snyder in rural America, but also a founder and president of another nonprofit that is non-religious and helps with some of the social issues, complex issues that people, individuals, families find themselves in from time to time. Let me give you just a little bit of an idea of where I come from. Before the understanding of ADD and ADHD, I was struggling in school as a student, and I can recall several times being encouraged to drop out of school because it was pretty obvious at the time that I wasn't going to be anything, or I was told I would never be anything or really accomplish anything in this life. For whatever reason, I ended up staying in school, and I graduated from high school. After that, I was pretty aimless. I really wasn't good at anything. I wasn't a good student, wasn't a good athlete. I didn't have any prospects as far as higher education goes. But I had an experience. Some people call it a religious experience, a religious conversion. Nonetheless, my life was completely changed when I turned to Christ and I gave my life to Him. And I really made it a prayer. Okay, what do I do from here? Where do I go from here? Whatever you want to do, I'm available. I really didn't have anything to lose anyway. And so from that time, I just began to move through life. And I eventually did graduate from a junior college here in town. I spent several years taking care of my elderly grandfather, moved in with him, and I held down any job that would allow me to preach on the weekends. I became a preacher at a very young age. And so I was put in charge of a very small church. It had just a half a dozen people or so in it. But it was a great learning experience for me. I just wanted to preach. I just wanted to teach. I just wanted to be a part of something that God was doing and really just talk about what God was doing in my life, just an opportunity to testify. So I had these menial minimum wage jobs that I would keep that would allow me to have Sundays off and Wednesdays off. And I didn't realize it then, but each job that I was going through and that I was doing, whether it was working in a retail store, whether it was working in a restaurant, whether it was working as a substitute teacher, and I just kept progressing from job to job. And it would seem from the outside that, well, man, this guy can't keep a job very long. I would keep them, maybe a year, maybe two, and then I would move on to the next job. And I was reading a paper recently, I believe it's called Peripheral Visions by Battinson. And in here, it makes the statement, often those who have had multiple fresh starts or who have chosen lives with multiple discontinuities are forced by the standard idea of the shape of a successful career to regard their own lives as unsuccessful. I have had to retool so often, I estimate I have had 5 careers. This does not produce the kind of resume that we regard as reflecting a successful life, but it is true of more and more people, starting from the beginning again and again. Zigzag people, learning to transfer experience from one cycle to the next. We only progress like a sailboat tacking into the wind. And this was my experience. I didn't realize it, but with each job, I didn't have money, and so one job I would run into a family that that really just kind of took me in, so to speak, and would have a desire to see me go to school and become something, so they would invest financially or support or buy my books as I would try to go to junior college. And I met another gentleman who was a business owner that saw my work ethic and said, "Hey man, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to go to school." And he said, "Well, you just come see me." So when the new semester started, I went to go see him. He wrote out a check and paid for my semester at school. Each job that I had, I would not only run into people that would support my endeavor to go to school as a young person. At the time, I was maybe 19, 20 years old. But I would also run into people who gave me a very unique perspective on life. because all of our life experience is so different, I would run into people that had different life experience, different backgrounds, different experiences with local law enforcement or with mental health issues or whatever the case may be. I didn't realize at the time that with each job and meeting new perspectives, going from the restaurant business to the retail business, going from the retail business to a substitute teacher, from a substitute teacher I would work what was then the Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse here in Snyder. And I would end up again back in the public school system doing intervention and prevention programs for high school and middle school students. And each job that I had, I met new people, new experiences, new ideas, new views on life, new views of addiction, new views of criminal justice, new views on academics or higher education. And so with each one of these new relationships, people would come in my life and out of my life with each new job, each new prospective career. I would eventually end up in adult probation. I worked for the 132nd Judicial District, the Honorable Ernie Armstrong, and I did adult and juvenile probation. I did fugitive apprehension. I looked for people with warrants. I did field contact officer. I looked for people on the job. I went to their homes. And it was a really a great experience for me to learn things like conflict resolution, how to talk to people from so many different perspectives. And I realized it's because I went from one job to another job to another job. And all the while I was having people coming in and out of my life that would invest in me, that would teach me, I would learn from them. Even if they weren't even trying to coach me or mentor me, I was listening, I was learning. What that has given me is a perspective that is referred to as integrative studies or integrative approach. And so basically what that is, one of my professors, Mrs. Gibbs, one of my integrative studies professors said that integrative studies is the application of interdisciplinarity. And so in a modern day example of how I would use this, or really how I've been doing this for many, many years now, is that there's a family that is found behind a local convenience store. They're living in their car. It's a husband, wife, and 3 kids. One of them's 2, one of them's 5, one of them's 9. And so when the sheriff's department is called, the deputy sees them, meets them, we end up getting the call. And so I end up on the scene, and I have this man, wife, and 3 kids. Well, which need is the most prevalent, and what do we do with them? Well, is there substance abuse? Possibly. They haven't showered in several days, they haven't had a place to live, they live in their car. So we have a shelter issue. When was the last time they ate? We have an immediate food issue. Is there any signs or evidence of substance abuse? So I need a criminal justice perspective. Is there any sign or evidence of mental health issues? Why are they living in their car? Why are they unemployed? Why don't they have any money? Is there any mental health issues? When was the last time the kids were in public school? Have they ever been in any kind of public education? So we have this complex problem. We have all these issues. So this is where we glean from the different agencies. So we may be collaborating with CPS, child welfare. There may be adult protective services. There may be an MHMR issue. I started a Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse here in the Resource Center. And so I may be dealing with that perspective. So I'm going to be checking with local law enforcement and MHMR and CPS and APS, and all these different agencies are going to be coming together, an administrator from the local public school that we work with so frequently. We're going to all come together, and they're all going to bring their individual disciplines, their individual perspectives. And what the Resource Center does is we take all of these different ideas and we come up with one plan. We have one family. We have a multitude of problems, a multitude of issues, but we need one plan to begin to move this family from a place of dependence upon all of these agencies and upon our agency to a place of self-sustainability. We want to move them forward to where they are able to handle and care for their own needs. We want to help them take a step forward, as the vision says, for the Resource Center. And so that's an example of how I would utilize both interdisciplinarity, which is the information that each agency can give me, but integrative studies, how do I take all of these ideas and mesh them and build one solution utilizing all of these individual disciplines? How do I apply all of this information into one plan for this one family. So this is what we do, and this is how I use integrative studies, integrative solutions, integrative problem solving on a pretty regular basis here in Snyder. So I want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this personal narrative of mine. I hope it gives you a little bit of insight into who I am and what I do here in Snyder as a community leader, as a minister, as a problem solver, as a learner, as a person who tries to make a difference in the lives of the community that I live in and in the lives of the people that I'm around. So I want to say thank you once again. We'll talk to you later.